You're listening to Inside Real Estate, your source for all things mortgage and real estate related. The show that brings you all the hottest topics and insights directly from those who know it most. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Sit back and enjoy the show. What is up, everyone? Paul Apostolakis, Brad Weisgerber, Salvatore Cusmano. We are Inside Real Estate. Welcome to another episode of our show. For those of you that have found us, thank you for listening in. We can't do the show without you. Please like, share, subscribe the show. It does help us out tremendously. Please find us on Facebook /IRE Podcast if you want to see us live, or go to YouTube, or you can listen to us live, after live on any podcast app. So, boys, today is just us. I figured we would just do a show just us, especially with the market conditions the way that they are. I think we've got a lot to talk about. Rates are up sharply. Mortgage rates are up sharply. That's the biggest news I think that we have on our plate right now. I mean, Sal, you saw rates go up yesterday quite a bit. We're all the way up at around 3.875 on a 30-year fix. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're nearing 4% on mortgages. How's that affecting the purchase market, refinance market? We'll talk a little bit about that. Supply chain on builders, is that causing some issues? And also 60% of deals right now are refinances. What is this interest rate hike going to do to the market and the industry as a whole? I think it's going to have some ripple effects as far as our mortgage industry as a whole. So first and foremost, let's talk about the rates going up. Do we know what caused rates to go up, guys? Do we have any idea?
I mean, it's a mixture of a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Mainly inflation.
Inflation is the big key word, right? Inflation being up the way that it is. The Fed talking about raising rates. Just so everybody understands, when the Fed raise rates, when they raise their rates, they're raising the rates that banks transfer money from bank to bank to each other on home equity lines, on those type of things. But when we're talking about long-term rates, 30-year mortgages, 15-year mortgages, those are all kind of affected by the market. And the market's already kind of speaking to the fact that rates are going to go up this year, and they're just already doing. I mean, rates have gone up quite a bit. Sal, I know that you are in the throes of it. What are you seeing as far as purchase activity? Are you seeing that up or down? Because nationally, purchase activity is actually still very up.
Yeah. I mean, people are still getting pre-approved left and right, so that's good.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, hey, here's the rates.
Right.
I think like whenever anyone's purchasing a home, for the most part, it's just about getting the better, or what you conceive to be the best deal at that time, right? So it's not really about, what rates were 6 months ago or what they're going to be in 6 months. It's about when you purchase. So for the most part, it has had little deterrent. I think, maybe people were pre-approved earlier in the, last year or whatever. And, we're looking at homes and looking at prices, right? And payments, I should say. It's kind of probably a sticker shock when they get quoted, $100 higher payment for the same home,
So. That's happening right now. That's going to continue to happen. In my opinion, I feel like rates are going to stick around this mark here for a little while, if not go higher. Based on what's happening in the market. Stock market took a beating yesterday, absolute beating. I don't know what's happening today. I haven't really looked at it. It looks like it's recovering a little bit. Does the stock market play a big role in interest rates, guys, do you think?
I think everything does. I mean,
yeah.
I think that, not as big of a role as, say the Fed, right? But it's just another large pool or supply of money, and money moves in and out of that, and in and out of bonds, and in and out of now crypto and things like that. So, ultimately, I think more or less like what is happening in there is to a degree what you can see as an indication of where rates are going, right? Like typically when the market goes down, right, you'd say, oh, well, rates should be better today, right?
Right.
But recently it just seems like the shock of everything with the Fed saying they're going to raise rates 4 times, which is crazy because it's like, yeah, dude, they were going to raise rates at some point. right? And
Right.
now it happens, and the market prices it in, because they haven't even done the rate hike.
No, they haven't even.
This
We
is
haven't
all
learned- yeah,
market reaction, right? So who knows, right? They're still going to say they're going to raise rates. We don't know exactly by how much and what the increment is, for the 3 to 4 times that they're going to do it this year, right? They're saying 4 times, but if they say, well, we're going to raise it, an eighth of a point the first time, and everyone's expecting a quarter, rates will come down, even though they're still raising rates, right?
right.
And if they say we're going to raise it, 3/8 of a point instead of a quarter, then rates will go to hell. So it's just a bunch of priced in market speculation, hedging, blah blah blah. I mean, there's a big disparity between lenders' pricing right now. I think a lot of lenders have different policies and different volume with what they do as far as delivering the securities. You know what I mean?
yeah. Lender to
we
lender,
just
you're seeing different
Or selling
reactions.
the pools of loans or whatever. So, they probably have, like, when we lock a loan for 30 days, it's not locked 30 days with the lender, right?
No, they're moving that money around. They're just
Yeah, they're
guaranteeing
hedging just
that
a
rate.
bunch of different money. So I don't
Right.
know. I mean, we found out today how you can lose your ass on a deal, right?
Yeah,
Which is crazy. So, it's risky to be a lender in a situation like this, right? If you're not protecting the locks and the interest rates and whatnot, because eventually, what are you going to do? You're not going to go to your client, hey, the market moved. I know you already closed, right? We got to raise
Yeah.
the rate.
right.
No.
No.
So
Yeah,
That's
you
not
can't do
happening.
that.
you,
No.
you take it on the chin. Yeah, you're done.
So I mean, my whole thing is though, guys, my biggest thing is like at 4%. I still think real estate is very like lucrative in its attraction to investors, to people buying, because we're still forecasting double-digit appreciation in 2022, right? So if
Yeah, I
we,
mean, real estate's still super attractive. Money's still super cheap. The
Yeah.
big problem is in our industry is the refis don't make sense anymore. For like generally speaking, right? A lot of people have already refied. 4% isn't attractive for refinance anymore.
right,
So the market's going to shift and is shifting to all purchase, which is going to shrink the amount of business out there for mortgage companies to do, right? So a lot of these refi shops, they got to adapt or die, right?
how do you adapt though? I mean, I know there's going to be cash out transactions that are still going to happen.
Yeah, there's gonna be
But even that,
divorces.
I mean, if you're at 2.5%, you've got to take a 4% rate on a cash out. You might be looking twice at that, right?
Yeah, unless you have to do it.
Right. I mean, there's still
Well,
going to
it
be people
was
that are going to
like-
refinance, but
When talking to someone about doing a HELOC, hey, you're at 3.5 even on your first mortgage, right? Like, do a cash out refi and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But
right.
now it's like, all right, well, if you got to raise your 2.99 or 3 1/8 or whatever to 3.875 or 4, I mean, you might as well get a HELOC. I think HELOCs will be big.
Yeah.
HELOCs will be big.
You're protecting the money on the main.
It depends how much you're borrowing. If you've got a $100,000 mortgage and you're going to take a HELOC out for another $100,000, but it's on a floating rate and you're at 4.
Well, yeah, I mean, that might make sense, right? But a lot of people,
Right.
cash out and they take 20, 30 grand, do some home improvements, pay some debt off. And it's like,
Yeah.
get a HELOC, man.
Yeah. HELOCs are going to be pretty big, I think, going into 2022 for sure. Yeah, this rate movement being so sharp is concerning in the fact that what Brad said, if 60% of volume right now is refinances in the marketplace as far as loans originated, what happens when that goes to 30%? You know what I mean?
It'll go less than 30% probably. If it's, I mean, you're not going to see many refis left.
So what does that do to all these loan officers and mortgage companies that are built on refinances?
Kills them.
Brings them to the McDonald's line to flip burgers, man.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
you're done, right?
It's the
I mean,
truth, man. If they don't know how to get purchase business, if they're solely focused on refis, they're
Right.
going to be like a deer in headlights. They're not going to know what to do. They're going to have to get a different job,
Right.
either quit or get fired. Like
Right.
the business is going to be there if they can't get purchase business.
Yeah. And purchase business is historically driven by what? Real estate agents, by referrals, right?
Yep.
And so if you haven't been making those contacts as a mortgage professional all this time, then you're probably going to suffer some major consequences going into 2022 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the business will weather the storm, right?
Yeah.
Or these conditions or whatever, right? Like purchases and real estate will do well, right?
Right.
It's just a question of who's doing it, right? And you're definitely going to see a lot of people get laid off in this business, right?
Yeah.
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 I mean, operation. I mean, and that's what sucks. I mean, as a salesperson, you can kind of control your own destiny, right? But
kind of. Yeah.
to a degree. I mean,
Yeah.
you want to get purchase business, you can figure it out, make it happen, right? Work
Right.
harder. But as a loan processor, underwriter, all the staff, it's like, well, sorry, we built our whole business on refis and we're bleeding cash like crazy. You got to go, right?
Yeah, it's interesting to me that purchase volume is still as high as it is, even with higher rates. But it kind of goes to what you guys always say, that rates don't really drive the purchase market as much. In general, people move because they need to move, right? But affordability is going to start becoming an issue, right? Like Sal said, your payment's going to be $100 higher than it was a month ago, right? I mean, potentially.
Yeah, affordability is going to be a big issue. I mean, you have inflation, you have home appreciation, so values are going up, so houses cost more.
Yeah,
if interest rates going up, so the payments are going to be higher, and
houses are going to cost more in 2022 than they did in 21 by far.
Yeah,
by a lot, by quite a bit.
The wages aren't going up, but everything else is. So affordability is going to be an issue for sure.
Right. So do we see a shift in where people are buying houses? Maybe more of these outlying areas that have the cheaper homes probably start popping off a little bit more because it's really the place where people can afford them. Would you say that?
I mean, I think people will figure it out. Like Brad said, I mean, we definitely had a moment of wages up and rates crazy low. That was like an awesome opportunity to buy. Like, holy shit, a $300,000 payment's only $1,700, right?
Right.
With taxes and insurance. But, going forward, I think, it's going to be a little more level, but I don't necessarily know that it will stifle. I mean, here's the thing. There's so many buyers, right? You have one home, let's say it's in Royal Oak or whatever, a hot area, and it gets 15 offers. There might be like 4 or 5 people at the top of their budget, right?
Right.
And then 5 others that could comfortably buy it, and then another 5 are probably way overqualified, right? So it kind of ends up being one of those things where I think there's still way more buyers than there is supply, and I don't think it matters.
Yeah, the supply demand issue isn't going away.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know what happened. Someone's trying to call me.
Supply demand issue isn't going away. Like, it really isn't. It's going to be there throughout 2022. I think even with higher rates, I think people are going to, if anything, I think there's going to be like a mad scramble to get into the housing market before they go up even higher.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of sellers too, because I do think this is going to stifle values a little bit. I don't think it's going to bring them down, but I think the growth is like not as big as people think. You think appreciation is going to be a little lower. Down.
Yeah, it's going to go down because of the higher rates. I mean, I
see
the
major cause of the inflation was all the money getting pumped in, right?
Yep.
And it affected everything, including housing values and low rates. All right. I mean, because, think about it. It's like a snowball, right? This house went and sold for over. This house did. People had a little more money. The rates were cheap. And it just keeps going and growing and pushing the values up with, appraisal waivers and whatnot, essentially locking in those values. But I think, that's all slowed down as soon as the money becomes a little less affordable. Even, that goes against what I was just talking about to a degree, but I just think it will affect it. It probably won't be like super crazy, but things are going to definitely level off.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, supply. What about supply chain for builders? I mean, builders need to be building houses right now because of the supply demand issue, but supply chain is causing issues for builders. I know, Sal, you're building a house right now, right? Are you seeing supply chain issues causing issues for your build?
No.
No,
Not at the moment. But I mean, there's still a house where my house is, so or supposed to be. So
Still
I don't
early.
know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's still early. I can't believe that 60% of deals right
I
now
mean-
are refinances. It's crazy. Go ahead, Sal.
Yeah, but how far does that data lag?
It always lags.
It's at least a month out. Right?
Yeah, it's
So
at least
Yeah.
a month out.
I mean,
that
look
is
at
not
the-
gonna-
We can see the numbers of essentially all the top accounts at United Wholesale Mortgage, right?
Yep.
And you look and see how many refis they did in December, November last year in total, right? And
Yep.
where it's at on pace year to date with the way the rates are. And it's like a lot of these accounts are doing one half
Half.
of what they were doing, you know,
Yeah.
because they're so refi heavy. So, you know, I mean, I don't know. Things will adapt. What are you going to do though? Right? Like the supply chain thing you're talking about, maybe it's not an issue now. Maybe it is in 30, 60 days. It could all be different. Same thing with rates.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I mean, I think there's an obvious high likelihood and chance of them continuing to rise or go up or, you know, stay up, but you never know. Something could happen and the rates
Well,
are back down, right?
We go into a recession or something like that happens and money starts flowing back into the bond market. I mean, there's a lot that could happen, but right now with employment being as high as it is, I feel like employment, even though wages aren't rising, there's a gap in employment right now, right? So there's still there's a lot of room for employers to hire, which I think causes a situation where is the economy still doing well? Is it not doing well? Is it doing okay? Like, it's hard to tell if the economy is like doing okay. I personally think that we're in like a shitstorm right now that potentially could blow up if it's not handled correctly.
I think that's the best way to put it. It really is a shitstorm.
Shitstorm, dude.
There's no real way to tell, in my opinion, how the economy is really doing right now because everything is kind of all over the fucking place. I mean,
Right.
there's no real like trend in any one direction. It's really a shitstorm.
Right. But would you like, if I was a buyer right now, would you be like saying like you might want to get in now before it gets even crazier?
I mean, I say that to everybody because if you're a buyer and you want to buy a house and it makes sense now, then do it now because you don't know if it's going to make sense next week, next month.
Right.
So if you want to do something and it makes sense now and you can do it, then do it. That's my
I
advice.
mean, I
all
guess the
time.
beauty is to it when it comes to like an interest rate, like if it goes down, you can refi.
Right.
Yeah.
If it goes up, you can't, or you wouldn't want
And
to.
you could.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So-
So, take your rate where it's at today, and then hopefully you can get a chance to refinance down the road. But are you getting a lot of clients, Sal, that are like in sticker shock? Like a week ago, we were talking 3.25, and now we're talking 3.8, and they're like, "Whoa!" Or are they just kind of like, "Whatever"?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a great combo, but once we have it, it's like, well, I guess, you know, it is what it is. I mean,
Right.
what are we going to do? Right. I
Nothing you can do.
There's nothing
yeah,
you can do.
it's just is what it is. Like, you know, sometimes you just got to process the information. Like we had a conversation this morning and it's like, wow,
What are you gonna do?
that is what it is. Yeah. I mean, that sucks.
There's good news and bad news, bro, in life, and sometimes you just gotta take the bad news with the good. So, we just so everybody knows, we just got hit for like $6,000 worth of fees on a deal that we weren't expecting to get hit on. So we're all like, okay, well, we weren't expecting that.
And you know, I mean, it goes to show, right? Like that's how the market, right, really can just change something so quickly.
Right.
So, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
Um,
It is what it is. Oh man, it is what
Yep.
it is.
can't go back.
You think the housing supply, you think this is going to do anything to the housing supply, or you think the housing supply is still going to be lean and mean in 2022?
I mean, I have a feeling there's it will still be on the leaner end, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
I think that there will be some sellers who, like I was saying earlier, if things are becoming more expensive to buy, right?
Yeah.
And your house value isn't necessarily increasing as much because rates are higher.
Right.
Might be a good time to sell, right?
Yeah.
And buy before it continues to get any worse, right? So I think that's kind of a thought. I mean, I think we all kind of, to a degree, in our heads, feel like, all right, rates are going to go up to 4.5, 5, whatever this year, right? I'm more interested to see what happens in the years afterwards, right? What does next year look like?
Right.
2024, 2025, right? Are these like what are those years going to be like, right? Like, our rates
Yeah. Are we going to
continue
see
to go up,
Are we going to see
right?
10%
What's gonna
rates
happen
like
to
we did in
values?
the 80s? Right. Yeah.
And if you see 10% rates, how much does that affect our market? How much does that shrink the mortgage pool of business?
Shrinks it completely.
Right.
I don't think we'll see 10, but
No, but we have. My whole
Yeah.
point is we have, but let's say we
40
saw
years ago.
Yeah, true, very true. But history does tend to repeat itself, right?
like,
It
why
doesn't-
would you? I mean, dude, like, you look at like the amount of interest you pay. Why would you even buy?
Right,
Like,
because like you said, you need a house. People at 10, 12, 13%, we're still buying houses in the 80s, bro.
no, I get it. I mean,
You know?
I do get
Yeah,
it.
but
It's
that's a whole
crazy.
different market. I mean, in the 80s, you were buying a house for $50,000, $70,000. Like, you weren't buying $400,000 houses at 10% in the 80s.
That's a
wasn't a
fair
thing.
statement. That's a super fair
Right?
statement. Yeah,
I don't
Yeah, but
think
your
we'll ever
wage
see-
was like $5,000 a year too, though.
Right. Yeah, but
Back
I mean,
then. So, I guess it's all to a degree relative, but it'd be interesting, like, you look at some things, right? And it's like, oh, a pickup truck back then was $1,800,
right,
right?
right.
And you might have made $5,000 a year, right?
Right.
So let's say you make $80,000 a year now, right? What would that end up being, like 35,000 or something for a pickup truck?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
dude, they're all like 50 grand.
More than that, bro. For a good pickup truck, you're talking about 70 grand at least.
Well, for a
Yeah,
top of the line
depends.
one, but still, right? I mean, things are comparatively more expensive, I would say. And how many people had, hundreds or, $50,000 to $100,000 of student loan debt, right?
Right.
And how many people, would pay what they pay now for iPhones and cable and utilities and shit like that? I mean, it's just more expensive to live, dude. And I feel like they take more probably out of your taxes too, or out of your paycheck for taxes.
Right.
I'd be really shocked if we ever saw it 10% again. I'd be really, really shocked.
I mean, yeah, I'll be shocked if we see 7% in the next year, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I think
4.5% would be like a normal. Like I wouldn't be like that surprised if you're at 4.5% on average for 2021. I really wouldn't see that, right?
I mean, dude,
Or
in
22.
2 months, like, we're gonna be 2 years past COVID, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of a big part of it too. And right now, like, I feel like more people are getting it than ever, but it's the least potent, or less the highest non-lethality or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
no one's
Yeah.
so
That's because a huge number of people are vaccinated.
well,
Yeah.
So if they're getting it, they're not dying from it, which is the point of the vaccine, right?
right.
You'd
But
think,
at the
but-
same time, that's just what it is right now, right? So if something happens, like some new variant or something that is super deadly, or whatever it is, that could change rates, right? That could put us back down into lockdowns and shit. But the way it's going right now, it looks like it's basically kind of over. I mean, there's people getting them all the time and just like, whatever, dude.
I don't think it's over. bro.
No, not even close, bro. Schools are going remote. They're closing down. Like, it's
Yeah.
getting worse, bro.
I don't
What
think
are you
it's. I
talking
don't
about?
think it's over, bro. Maybe you're seeing it a little differently, but
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, I feel like obviously you gotta, like, with kids and shit, you gotta like take those measures. But I think like a lot of like workplaces and whatnot are just like, whatever, dude. Like,
yeah,
took a negative test, like, You took some bogus fucking test you bought at the store and it said negative, so come on in, right? What do you got, a headache? Like, that's how I feel like it is a lot of places, you know, like as opposed to like last year or the year before, it was like you were like a leper if you had COVID. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't be around anyone for 15 days or whatever it was, right? And now it's like, all right, 5 days, you're good.
Right.
You took an at-home test, you know if you got it or you don't. Like, I don't know. I just feel like the hindrance that it's putting on a lot of things is like being reduced, right? And I guess being dads, you guys would know from a school perspective, but
yeah,
that's a pretty big thing to gamble with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think COVID is going away anytime soon. I don't think
COVID's going to go away, but you know, if it continues to kind of be protected against and/or the variants become weaker, then COVID's just as common as a cold, right? Or, you know, like you don't get a cold and think like, dude, I'm going to die, right?
No, but people are dying still, bro, from COVID.
I know. I'm not saying that people aren't dying, but I mean, just look at the stats.
Right.
You would think with 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 cases a day that the stock market will get crushed, right? Like, it'd be a worry, but everything's going up and it has no hindrance on the markets. Let's just say that the market seems to be immune to COVID. It's old news.
Yeah. The market doesn't care about COVID anymore. Yeah. The market doesn't care. I mean, it does if there's a flare up or whatever, but
we just had the biggest numbers ever, and like it was fine.
Yeah,
the market was like going up like 500 points a day.
Right.
Like,
nobody cares. Yeah, nobody cares about COVID. As far as the markets go, they're like, fuck it. You know what I mean? So
yeah. I guess that's how I should have rephrased everything. It's not that people don't care, but like for the most part, industry and markets seem to be kind of like, whatever.
Yeah. So I didn't want to take up too much time today, boys. I think that just sums it up. I mean, rates, just for everybody that's listening, they have gone up, and you know, Freddie Mac average rate I think is 3.6. I think that's bullshit because it's still lagging behind as far as reporting. We're at 3.875. We're at 4%. Like if there's a 4 in front of your mortgage, don't be surprised. If there's a high 3s, don't be surprised. I mean, that's where we're at right now. I mean, that's just the reality of the mortgage market.
Don't listen to the bullshit commercials you hear out there about it's historic low rates, time to refinance.
Well, it's 3.45 right now with 0.75 of a point, and that's last week, right?
Yeah, it's costing 0.75 of a point.
Costing 0.7 and points and fees. So
right,
you know, people are buying points. I think buying points will be something that people really do again.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Like, is buying points now a viable thing because, you know, you want to get the lower rate and you're going to be in there for a long time? You know, it could be. I'm always a proponent of no cost mortgages so that you could refinance and take advantage of the market if it goes down. There's always different arguments to that, but there's going to be people that want to pay points now to get their lower rate, you know, and there's people that are doing investment properties going to have to pay points. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's the long and short of it. Anything you guys want to add before we go, guys?
Not really. I wonder what ARMS will do.
Listen, with the flattening yield curve, and we can get into all that, I mean, ARMS will probably become a more viable option coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet. I mean, we can talk about yield curves and really bore the shit out of our audience, but yield curve is flattening. If it ever inverts, it's one of the leading indicators of a recession.
If it's flattening, is it still a curve?
It's more of a hump.
It's more of a yield line at that point when it's flat?
Yield hump.
There's no curve.
My humps. My little lady humps.
All right, we're not talking about yield curves.
Yeah, we're not. But just know that if it inverts, if it does invert.
That was like the cringiest thing I ever heard.
Yeah. Sorry, buddy.
Some fucking black-eyed peas, dude.
Yeah, bro.
But now we're going to get a DMCA strike on our fucking podcast.
Right? All of a sudden now we can't. Yeah, that's it. All right,
yeah,
man.
Well, hang on tight, everyone.
Hang on tight. We'll be back next week
all right.
With another guest, and we'll talk some more about it. But as of right now, hold on to your booties. But for those of you that have listened in this far, thank you for listening. We are taking off early today. Please tune in next week where we have more guests, more show. Please follow us, like, share, subscribe. Go to irepodcast.com. Go to Facebook.com/IRE Podcast or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Thank you very much, boys. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Inside Real Estate, the nation's top real estate podcast. Don't forget to follow us at irepodcast.com and everywhere where podcasts are available.